Great. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, November 25th. It is 10 a.m. We are at the Presidio County Annex in Presidio, Texas. This is a special meeting of the Commissioners Court. I would ask that our clerk verify quorum.
Presidio County Judge Jose Portillo Jr.,
Present.
Commissioner Precinct 1, Miriam Heisen. Here. Commissioner Precinct 2, Margarito Hernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Precinct 3, Frankie Ortiz. Commissioner Precinct 4, Betty Knight.
Here. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, and I'll open this up to public comments. 5 minutes, if you would just please state your name and anything you need to, that you want to address Commissioner Sport about. Any public comments online? Okay, we'll move on to our routine agenda items. Discuss, number 1, discuss and take action to approve any budget amendments and or line item transfers.
There are none, Mr. Judge.
There are none. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, discuss and take action to approve the treasurer's list of claims and bills.
Good morning, Commissioners. Judge, the amount for bills is $58,529.08. The reason we're having bills this time is because a lot of these vendors charge a late fee, and we're trying to avoid that.
Okay. Anything out of the ordinary or?
No.
Okay.
Just routine.
And for the electrical bill from, North Park hasn't come in yet.
No, we should be receiving it pretty soon though.
Okay, just to let the court know, we did do the transfer in time on electricity, but the golf, committee had not transferred the electricity yet. So when that bill comes in, our auditor will be billing the golf committee because that whole budget has been defunded. And so they're gonna cover that. So that's why I'm asking for, make sure that the county doesn't pay for that electricity.
Okay. Anything else?
I move we approve the bills as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we're off to our regular agenda items. It looks like we're gonna have to wait on number 3. So
Yes,
we're
don't
gonna get a
mind.
little bit out of order. Agenda item number 4, discuss with action to approve the use of a county tractor brush hog and staff member to mow the field with Meseta Cemetery.
Judge, that's a mute point that I think some people, and normally Commissioner Hosler brought it to me at one time that they said cemetery wanted to use our tractor and bush hog, which, and we've helped them before, but I said it needs to be approved by the court. And since that time, since it was put on the agenda, I think some folks, the commissioner and some other folks from the community went ahead and did the job. So it's basically a moot point. Therefore, I move no action on that item.
Okay, do you want to discuss it, like if this happens in the future or?
Sure. Well, and I think this is the right way to do it. No matter, I know Ruben used to haul caliche and help fix the roads at Mercy, all the cemeteries. Anyway, but I think the right way to do it again is if somebody like the cemetery or somebody needs some help and we have a little extra, but I still believe the court needs to approve it before. I don't think a commissioner could just say, yeah, use it, or it's against the law to use it if it's not in the budget anyway, but it's something the court needs to approve.
You can pre-approve it in the future if you would like to and set a date on it, say in this fiscal year. I think the cemeteries, Buddy, they're in your precinct, is that correct?
Correct.
So if y'all wanted to, you could have an action where for this next fiscal year, Buddy can have the right to authorize the use of the hog bush. That way, when we have these situations where people don't necessarily want to wait 3-4 weeks for an approval, the pre-approval is already on the books. So that's fine to do if y'all want to do that.
Sure, that's a good idea, and I'll work on that. We'll
No, I
put
mean,
that
you
on
could do
the-
that right now if y'all wanted to, appoint a single person to have a pre-approval authorization for the next fiscal year for the use of the hog bush tractor, whatever it may be, whatever it may be.
Well, Blair, I was the one that brought this to Buddy, and since that time, I've done a lot of thinking, and, you know, there's 3 cemeteries in, Marfa. I don't know how many there are exactly in Presidio, and I don't know that we're really in a position financially to be able to always do that. We have defunded our parks. Do we then become a cemetery department? So I would prefer that we just bring it up as a case by case issue, because we also there were some of us that were out there putting in a lot of sweat equity to make sure that the cemetery was cleaned up. There's a lot of energy in the cemeteries right now of folks starting to take care of their own. I believe down here in Presidio, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all always end up cleaning up the cemeteries on the Dia de los Muertos event, right before that. So I just don't want us to get into a situation where, wow, y'all are using county resources up north, you're not using them down south. So I think that we shouldn't do a blanket approval. I think we should, like, if it comes up, we should have a discussion about it.
Quite frankly, I like the idea of blanket approval. I'm not gonna do it at this time, but I'd like to talk to you a little more and just see. I think each commissioner should have if they have the facilities, and they see a need and they can do it, could help each precinct if needed.
Okay.
Let me talk to you a little more, and I'll get back and we'll go from there. Okay?
Okay, so, table,
Well, there's just no action on, move for no action.
good, everybody's good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right. So let's move on to agenda item number 5, discussion with action to allow the county judge to apply for the rural ambulance grant program provided for in HB 3000 through the 89th legislature. So, again, and I'll remind everybody when HB 22 came out. Was it SB 22 or HB 22? Anyway,
SB.
the rules change in real time. They change week by week with the best of intentions. The legislators come out and say this, and then 2 weeks passes, and then it finally makes it to a bureaucrat's hands, and then they even change the rules some more. So basically, all this is just for us to apply for it, to get on the website and see what's in there. I know that I got an email from Commissioner Hisler, and she's Heisler, and she is, she's discussed, she had visited with Judge Hennington. I also visited with Judge Hennington, and they do have a committee. I think theirs is a little different situation because they're gonna be losing their ambulance service this year.
Right.
So their ambulance provider for the city of Alpine has said, we're no longer gonna be in service.
Right.
And so the county, along with the cities of Alpine, are looking for a more permanent fix. So they're looking at the creation of an emergency services district and how that would look and what if they can get it done within that time frame. So ours is really just to look at an ambulance. And here's what this is what I don't know. I know it's a $500,000 max grant. I know it has no match. I know that it's meant for counties only. So how does that look? Can we split an ambulance in half? Can we give half to Presidio, half to Marfa? So we don't know yet. The only thing I'd like to do is just permission to apply for it, and then we'll look into it.
Well, Joe,
I did have,
I have some issues with this.
Yeah. So I
At the
have,
last meeting, I brought up, and I spoke with Ramon about this,
Okay.
is that I would like us to put a task force together, which I have done,
Okay.
with a representative from both city councils, Marfa and Presidio, and both EMS directors, so that we can fully flesh out what the needs are. And I frankly found this interesting that it got put on the agenda because I just discussed this at the last meeting, put the task force together. That grant, we can't even apply for it till January 1st.
Okay.
And so I think it's a little presumptive to give you approval to go ahead and apply for something that doesn't happen till January, and that we don't have the input from both North and South County, so that we make sure that we're no longer dividing our county, that we're working together to find out what the best end is. And I went to the task force in Brewster County, and they do have it's somewhat different, but it's somewhat very much alike. And we didn't talk much about the ambulance at that meeting. But in talking with Greg, and I believe both of our EMS directors are at a conference in Dallas right now, in which they're looking at all different kinds of equipment. So, a lot of people, when they think of an ambulance, they think of this big box ambulance. And we would only be able to afford one of those because those cost about $450,000. So a lot of counties, I just got out of training for commissioners. A lot of counties are starting to look at four-wheel drive, beefed up transit vans that we could probably afford to and keep it equitable. Make sure that Presidio is taken care of, make sure that Martha's taken care of. So I really think that, so that's one part of it. And then the second part of that, Joe, is that we do have a policy for grants. And it seems like this circumvents the very policy that Presidio County has, which is submitting a grant request form and identifying who the project director is, knowing what the budget is, and then we put it on the agenda. And I'm just quoting our policy that was adopted by Commissioners Court. So I feel that this really, we're planning, the task force is already planning on meeting after December 9th. We have City Councilman Eddie Payares. We have Jesse Pena. We have Councilwoman Bianca Bayon. I always mess up your name, and I'm so sorry for that. And then our EMS director here is
First part.
yes. So we have a committee together, Joe, and I would like to follow the policy that we have on the books.
I just wanna- Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
So we talked about this, I want to say a month or two ago, this was brought up, and I just had I'm trying to figure out of course, the legal side of it, because the county doesn't run EMS services, we contract those out. So I had a couple of questions for Ramon and Yvette on I know the grant's only available to counties, but if the county can receive the funds and either donate the funds directly to the cities or for the use of an ambulance, or purchase an ambulance and then immediately donate the ambulance to one of the cities. Because otherwise we're just adding a large asset liability on the county on owning a large, expensive, $500,000 asset that we don't have the budget to we don't have the budget to run our own EMS services. So I would like the answers to those questions. I remember asking those questions a couple months ago. Those are the big questions that I have, because if we can't do one of those two things, then the county is going to own a very large, expensive asset that it can do nothing with. So I think those are kind of the number one questions that need to be answered before we can really move forward with obtaining a $500,000 asset.
Well, and Blair, I think those rules are still, they were just posted on the 21st in the Texas Registry. So I think that we need to review those. I do not, I just want to make it clear, in no disrespect to Lone Star Strategy Group, but this is a county grant. So thinking that Lone Star Strategy is going to be running this, I think is a little presumptive.
I don't think that they think they're gonna be running it. And we had a meeting, unfortunately, we couldn't make it.
Right.
And again, I'm good with the committee.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I had Ms. Nunez put together a year's worth of EMS data. If you would do me a favor, send it out to the other commissioners and anybody else that wants it. So we can have as much information as we can have to make a good decision. So this is not, and I hear you about the Sprinter vans.
Right.
And I've got Troy Sparks. I'm gonna ask him if he's shaking his head. I'm gonna let you speak in just a minute, Mr. Sparks. But all of this will be aired out with the committee and with the EMS directors, and they'll decide. Again, what I'd hate to not do is we have an opportunity. Unfortunately, it's all strictly for counties. I understand your concerns, Ms. Parks, about now we have a liability. Can we gift it? All that will work itself out.
Right.
All I'm asking for is permission to apply for it. The rules did just come out. And here's another thing I'm going to warn everybody. These are rules 1.0.
Yeah.
If you guys want to make a side bet with me that they're going to change again to 2.0 or 3.0, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Sure.
So I don't want to get into the weeds with who's made up of the committee, how the committee decides. I think we can get information from all around us. And I don't think it should be, here we are, we haven't even started and it's already turned into let's do this, let's do that. Can we do this? Can we gift it to them? We don't know. We don't know until we see the rules, we study the rules, and then we move forward.
Well, Joe, I just find it interesting that I just rolled this out at the last meeting. I see Troy's on there. And now all of a sudden it's on the agenda and they won't even open the applications till January the 1st. So I really think that this is another item that should be tabled at this time.
Let me have, and because this is gonna get, again, this is what I didn't want to happen. I just wanted permission to apply for it. We do have, I think, do we have 2 meetings in December? We have 2 meetings in December. Yeah, but it's still not a lot of time. I just wanted to stay a little bit ahead of the curve, go ahead and apply for it, be ready to hit send for that deadline in January. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but Mr. Sparks.
So I'm up here in Fort Worth and at the EMS conference, just spent 2 hours with the EMS director, Joe Smeeter, and all the groups that, kind of basically put that whole HB 3000 into play. The main thing today that I would say is at least have permission to apply for the grant. That doesn't say how we're going to spend it. And you've got X amount of years to spend that money. We should be entitled to a big lump sum of money. Once we secure the grant, then at that point, if y'all want to come in and say, okay, sprinters, I personally, for our terrain in our area, I'm not too big on sprinters for safety. But let's say you capture the full amount. Let's say the full amount's 5,000 or 500,000. Let's say at that point you come in and say, okay, we're going to split it down the middle, and I am perfectly fine with that. But at that point, say, okay, what are our options? Yes, sprinters are always an option. They just don't handle the hills and the curbs the way we need them to. Or you can come in and say, hey, we're going to use this for remounting. You both have Fraser ambulances. What can we remount a Fraser ambulance for? Let's say we go in for, there's always options on remounts, A, B, and C. Let's say we can get the B remount, and then we remount our ambulances, our existing ambulances, and they'll come out shiny and new. But the main purpose is to apply for that grant. The minute they open it up, secure our money, it should come out to where 251 counties should get it out of 254 or whatever. But just the fact of securing the grant money, And then at that point, you can put a committee together. I'm A-okay with that. I would definitely advise, bringing in other directors throughout the state that actually sit on the committees and that are very in tune with all the rules and regs. But just securing the money for our county, I think is the important thing today.
Well, Troy, have y'all been talking about, I know that with the application process, there is a scoring. And it
Yeah.
deals with what they're trying to do is make sure that the counties that have the greatest needs will score higher. So they'll
Yes.
likely fund, and Presidio County always scores red hot when it comes to these type of issues. But I just want to remind the court is I'm with you. We have 2 more commissioners meetings where we can approve applying for the grant. But I want us to pay attention to what the policy is, which is in place. And we do not put it on the agenda until we've made a grant request and we've identified who the project director is, what the budget may be, and then it gets presented to Commissioner's Court, Troy.
So I will say this. So yes, Presidio normally scores red hot. However, you got to keep in mind our EMSs in there, those are considered now, after the big shift, those are considered frontier EMSs. This whole deal was put out for rural EMSs. So keep in mind, because the data is already there, that a lot of your smaller counties north of I-35, those are now the rural EMSs, and they walk away with the massive majority of funding
And they're
on their new point system.
Right. And I once again, I think we're saying the same thing. We do a plan to get an application in by January 1st,
Yes.
but I think follow our process.
So let me hear,
Yeah.
does anybody else have anything to say about this? Do you have anything to add, Ramon?
Well, I think that if it's gonna be committee oriented, I think that it's also gonna be data driven and pretty much it. We'll see from there.
So,
Say again.
If it's gonna be like in a committee, basically, we're gonna get input from Presidio, Marfa,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I think that from there, it'll be pretty much data driven to see what the data is, I guess, from both EMS.
And Ramon, I'm not saying the committee is the only one that's gonna be meeting. We'll probably open it up. But we do have to have the right people on the committee to be helping to drive this conversation and making the decisions.
Yeah, and I also think we should have like Troy said, I think having someone from, the higher ups that could probably give us more information.
Right.
But
right.
there's a committee in place.
We have a committee in place. I spoke about this at the last meeting. I was surprised to see this on the agenda.
well, I don't know why it's a surprise. It's just to apply for it. It's not, I'm not saying.
Joe, you
we're
as the
not making
county
any-
judge should know that we have a policy. And I know Lone Star Legacy, they know, or I'm sorry, I keep changing y'all's names, but they know we have a process in order to get things on the agenda. And that's usually called,
Basically what this is though, it's an opportunity for up to $500,000
I'm
in
not
grant monies.
denying
There's
that.
no match. And from my understanding, the application says the county judge has to apply for it. All I'm doing is trying to apply for it. Again, I don't know about divvying it up 50-50. I love that idea that Troy just came out with, which we just buy trucks. And then we put the new, the back ends on. That sounds very reasonable to me. Obviously, is that set in stone today? No. All I'm asking for is an opportunity to apply for it.
well,
That's
then
all.
Judge, you as the county judge should follow our processes.
Yeah.
So you put it on the agenda before you ever sent the grant form request.
Does anybody have anything else to add? So I make a motion that you allow me to apply for the HB 3000 for the rural ambulance grant program.
Also,
I have a motion and a second.
I've got
Is
a
there-
question.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes. Well, first, And if we haven't followed this, if we don't have this application, what does it do to the grant itself? And I'll be honest with you, the early bird gets the worm. I want to be on the list.
We can't apply till January first, buddy. All I'm saying is, can we at least have a committee meeting so that we know, how are you gonna write the application right now?
I don't know, we can't even get into the site until you give me permission to apply. Once we do that, we'll be able to print everything out that they have and.
But Joe, you haven't identified who the project director is. You
I-
haven't,
I am. I'm the one applying for it.
no, if you look at our form, if you follow our process, I believe that,
I think you're getting.
you are the authorized official, sir. You are not the project director.
So.
There is an authorized official with our form, there's a financial officer, there's a project director.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Well, I see we have a visitor.
I was in Marfa, I apologize.
Not-
I was at your gorgeous courthouse wondering where the annex.
You've never, well, number one, you're not the first person that this happens.
Press, and I just kept circling the block.
All
It
right.
just wasn't doing any good, so I apologize for being like.
If everybody's good with it, we'll move back to the regular agenda. And no, please, don't give it another thought.
You were perfect timing.
There you go, I like that.
Right.
This is agenda item number 3, a presentation with discussion from Ms. Lacey Lofton of the U.S. Census Bureau regarding the 2026 census test in Presidio County.
Well, hi, everybody.
Hey, Lacey.
You drive in.
Right,
I'm looking forward to spending more time looking at it on the way back.
right.
So I'm here to talk about an upcoming major operation we have in the area. So for them to hand out the flyers, but I'm also gonna leave a pile here, so if you guys want to take some on your way out again too. So we are already getting ready for the 2030 census, and I know you guys just finished with the 2020, especially the elected officials. I know we've been asking a lot for all the steps of this process. But we test our processes, our procedures, our hiring, our internal stuff, how we're actually counting in the decade in between to try to improve over where we were last time. Because of the pandemic last time, we're even starting at kind of a lower level, like we're trying to figure out, okay, like what was pandemic based and what was because we could have been doing things differently or better. So we have 6 different sites in the country to do a test census, and this is one of them. This is by far the biggest of them, in my opinion, by far the most interesting, and one of the hardest places to enumerate in the country. So just to give you a little bit more background why we chose it, it's hard for us to find people here, which I don't think is going to surprise anybody in this room. There's 2 steps to the process. We have to find every single place that people either do or could live. And there's a lot of embedded housing here. There's a lot of households that don't have a normal city style address. So first we have to locate all of those places, and then we have to go back and enumerate them. One of the places we struggle the most, and we don't necessarily have a fix for it, is that we first tried to send you, does anybody remember getting like a postcard in the mail?
Mhm.
It didn't happen all that well here, so you might not remember. We sent a postcard and we say, hey, since this is coming, can you please go online and fill this questionnaire out and tell us about your household? And we really struggle to get mail to a specific household because we can't do PO boxes because we need to be able to geocode it to the front door. So like when we're apportioning, like if there's a big bank of mailboxes or even a big bank of mailboxes, we can send mail there, but only if we can geocode it to the front door as well. So that's our first big struggle. And our second big struggle is getting people to respond, right? Another thing that's unique about this area is not only do your humans move around a lot, your housing does too. So with people that are snowbirds or people, like RV parks, things like that, like the house physically. So by the time we find the location, it's possible it's not there when we go back. So I'm gonna hand out some information about this. And I sent all of you the electronic versions. I'll start with this. So the test sites that we have are spread throughout the country, and we're testing different things in different places. Another thing we're testing here, which is a wonderful problem for you guys to have, is your unemployment rate is really, really, really low. And so one of the big first things that we're trying to do is if anybody's looking for extra money, we have jobs for you. Thank you. So we're testing different things in different areas, but one of the first things that we're testing is how we can recruit in the area. And I'll tell you, it's struggling. So this was also the perfect timing. We started this project on October 1st, the day the government shut down. So that was an interesting intake to this too. But we're really pushing for recruiting, and we're hoping to have a decent pool of people that we can hire starting in January, but we're hoping for that deadline December 1st-ish. Just because once we get to the holidays, the people we even care less about the government, you know, when you're busy with your families and things like that. So we're trying to get an applicant pool right now that we can start hiring in January. If you've ever worked for the census, one of the other things that we struggled with too was these are part-time jobs. And most of the time we're asking you to go out either evenings or weekends because we're looking for you to catch people at home. So, right, they might not be there during the day. So it's work that can be done with another full-time job. But I think we didn't do justice to the workforce here, especially last decennial. We bring everybody into a central location and train them there. And usually that was not close, right? So you'd have to go somewhere, and the training was like 8 hours a day. So if you did have a full-time job, a lot of people who would have been willing and I think could have really done the work didn't necessarily have the ability to do that training. If we couldn't train you, we couldn't hire you. What we're doing this time, this is one of the big things we're testing, is we're doing the training virtually. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mail you all the information, and you just do it from home. And you can sign up for your own times. So we'll have like a 4-hour box of time, so if you wanna do 6 to 10, on a Tuesday night, you can. If you wanna do it on the weekends, you can. So we can get people trained when it works with their schedule. And where they physically are. So I was talking to, we even did like trainings in Italy for like some of the, it's like, that's a whole different country. It's like, people on the East Coast don't quite get that. It's like, that's like 3 states away for most people, right? So we're gonna try to do that training at home. And the good news, and the other thing we're testing is if we pay more, if that will help with our recruiting efforts. So I'm gonna just leave these here because you guys know what these 4 counties look like, but I should mention the 4 counties that we're testing in are Presidio, Jeff Davis, Pecos, and Brewster. So very rural, lots of space between all these places. And so that's another reason we want to hire people so that we don't have to be sending someone constantly in and out, right? It's like we can spend a day learning, driving from one location to another. So we're hiring more people in the area than we normally would in order to cover those different areas. But the pay rates are competitive. So this was one of the things we were, we're testing to see what the exact, if we can figure out how we can do it better. So the pay rates for Presidio start at $32.50 an hour, which is much higher than we did in the past. We pay for training, we pay for, like when you're, doing the training, also you're driving, we pay for, when you're doing that, we also get 72 cents an hour now for driving. So we're hoping that that will make it more attractive to the population here again, because we know you've got a really low unemployment rate as well. So we are hoping to be able to hire people to enumerate people here. It does not work well for lots of reasons. We have to hire people from outside of the area and come in. People like me who may not realize where they're going. We would like to have people from the area who know the area. So if you know anybody, if you're interested, if you've got somebody you want to get out of your house on the night, you can do it. My mother is telling me that my followers, if they live in the area, should be happy to sign them up. But it's competitive. So most of the jobs that we're hiring for are actually enumerated. So we'll send out these postcards and we'll say, hey, please fill this out. If somebody doesn't, we send another one and we say, hey, remember when we sent you that thing in the mail? We have to go fill it out. We really need to go fill it out. And then eventually, if we don't get a form back, we have to send somebody to every single household. It's in the Constitution that we are required to get a response from every single dwelling that people live or live with. What's unique here too is because there's so many people that are here seasonally, it sometimes takes us a while to figure out, like, if somebody live here right now, or are they living somewhere else for the time being, and so it's okay that we're not. So it also takes some more trips. So we just need a bigger workforce than we would in a lot of places. It's a lot different than if you're like Houston, just, going to the next house, which is 20 feet away. So those are the pay rates. We also have some flyers. We're going to put some of these up around town. But if you know anybody, the application process, there's a QR code here, is actually really simple. All of the jobs listed here, it's the same application. That's what we're trying to do. So we used to be like, if you want to do this, go apply here. Like if you want to be a supervisor, go apply here. If you want to be an enumerator, go apply here. If you want to be an outreach assistant, go apply here. And the truth is, we keep changing the names. I can't even keep up with like exactly what those things are. And you might want to be a supervisor, but you're also okay being an enumerator. You might be okay being an enumerator, but you also would be willing to do something else. So it's one application process. Another thing we're building into it is more time for the background checks. So that's another reason we're trying to recruit now before we hire, because you have to pass 2 FBI background checks. And it really, we have nothing to do with it, and their schedule becomes our schedule. So we're trying to get these applications in, get the background checks, and then also so the training can be more flexible, get you in the system and start doing that. So I'm gonna hand these out. There are a couple things that move you to the top of our hiring list. So once you fill this out, you go into our database, and we will call you as jobs come available. We will offer you every job for which you are fitted. And it's usually based on what your wants were, whatever you said was the thing you were hoping to do. But if you don't say, want to take the first job we offer you, that's okay. You can say like, no, this maybe the timing's not right, maybe that doesn't sound fun to you. That's completely fine. We keep you in the database, and we'll call you back when another job comes up. So just for reference, and this is where I get everybody just waves joking like, lady, you must be crazy. We're hoping to recruit 400 people. You see, that's the look I get. Yeah, that's it right there. There's no poker face for this one, right? It's like, it's literally more people than the unemployment number for the entire 4 county. So, luckily, it's nice on weekends. It's another reason we're upping the pay, but because it's so much follow-up, we're expected to need a really big workforce. Just for a little bit of reference, in the 2020 census, which we're hoping to have a better response rate this time, just because no pandemic, we have decided we're not doing the pandemic this time around, so we're just gonna skip and go on with normal life. Nationwide, we had like a 71% response rate online. In Presidio, we had a 19%. So it's just a really big number. And then what's also interesting is this is a place where it might be hard to define where you live, right? So like if you're staying somewhere half the time, we have multiple locations, we will walk you through that process, and it's just more time. So we're looking for that. The 2 things that'll bump you up to the top of our list, if you're a veteran, you get veterans preference, so that'll put you up at the top of the list. And then the next thing is if you speak Spanish. So you do have to actually speak English as well, simply because we don't have, especially for this, now this might not be the case for the 2030 census. It's a smaller test, but our training is in English, and we're not requiring that our supervisors speak Spanish. So, if you can speak Spanish, that'll bump you up to the top of the list too, because we need to make sure we communicate effectively. So those 2 things will get you up, but then the next thing is it's first come, first serve. So if you're the first one in the system for the area that we're trying to pull an applicant from, then you're at the top of our list. So even if you're thinking about it, or you know somebody that is thinking about it, it's a 20-minute process. It's really simple. I just suggest getting in there, and then you get the first option for each of the jobs that we're offering. Just really quickly, what we're gonna be doing is just like a normal decennial census. So we'll identify the places which we've already done. We're not gonna be doing any in-field work on the ground here to identify locations like we will in the 2030 census. It's just out of scope for this. But we will send it postcards, and then we'll start sending enumerators out. There's a supervisor over enumeration district, so they'll have like 10 or 20 people working under them, and they'll actually make those assignments each day. The other thing is you get paid weekly. So this is, if you can work more, and we've got more work, we'll give that to you. But you can work as little or as much as you want. So if you can only do 10 or 15 hours a week, that's great. It's completely fine. If you want to do 40, we can do that too. The main hiring will be in January. So we're hoping to get our applicant pool solid during December. We'll start offering positions in January. We'll start training really February, and then start delegating work out February and March, just depending on exactly what you're doing. The main operation should be over by June, but we'll see how quickly we can get the work done. It just really does depend on how quickly we can get to every single person that we did involve with, and that's another thing we're testing too. Because some areas, like rural Alaska is one that we start in January, just because it is even harder, especially with the snow. In Alaska, we have like sled dogs that take us to some places, so like we're looking at, do we need to start some of these operations earlier? I don't know if you have any like
No,
detention centers.
we don't have sled dogs.
You don't have sled, I would say I've been here for about a month now, I've not seen a sled dog. Seen lots of cute dogs, but no sled dogs.
We don't have a detention center here. We do have a county jail
Okay,
that does house federal inmates.
okay, gotcha,
And sometimes that population can be as much as 100.
okay,
So
okay, well, the good news is prisoners in general are fairly easy to count. There are some group quarters that are harder, like college kids. I was one of them in 2000. We had somebody come to my dorm and walk me through the process exactly how they should. They're like, do you live here? And I was like, no. And I did. by the definitions that they were walking in. So we will be enumerating group quarters, that includes nursing homes, anywhere that people are staying together. Basically, there's some type of management facility. There's a management reason. So dormitories, nursing homes, inpatient care, prisons, any detention centers. So I'm gonna circle probably back with you when we get that list, because we're gonna get that list internally, and we just need to make sure we have access. Basically, who's the contact person we should be talking to.
Does Section 8 housing fall within that category?
Does Section 8 housing fall into that?
So every single residence does. So if it's a place that people could or do live, it will fall into that. Yes. Absolutely any place that people are residing.
I'm sorry, I
the
didn't
only
get
thing
a
that-
clear answer. What was that?
So yes.
Yes,
Yes, okay.
Where's the microphone?
it's always.
It's right here. Over there. I was talking about, yes. So any place at all that people are living. And so the one thing that is out of scope for this operation is people experiencing homelessness. And that's just, we didn't write it into the practice for this individual test. We will be testing that in other ways in other areas, but people experiencing homelessness, which often can be a group quarter. So like if there's a church that opens their doors on weekends or nights to people that are experiencing homelessness, we would normally go and enumerate them where they're sleeping. But that's out of scope for this particular operation. So one thing that's on your plate for this next test. We should wrap up in June. As all of you know, this is, the decennial census is the biggest thing that we do. It's for apportionment, it's for distribution of federal funds, all that really important stuff. We won't be producing numbers that are used for the test. So this test is basically an internal administrative way for us to look at it. But I will tell you, us going out and doing the work now and hiring people that we can hopefully then hire again for 2030 is really going to help the community, help us do a better count. And hopefully help the community understand the process and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because like I said, this is a place that we certainly struggle historically.
Yeah. So even if, so what you're saying in a nutshell is, even if there's a deviation in numbers, say you find that we were undercounted by 20%.
Right.
We're not gonna go back and change the numbers in the census, in the
No.
current census. But it's just to take into account for the 2030 and to be able to not repeat the mistakes.
That's exactly right. And hopefully improve on a lot of the different things that we're doing to go into it. There are actually ways to appeal. We're past that for 2020. There actually is a process that you can appeal your own numbers by coming to us and saying, hey, we don't think this is right. We don't think you have the right address list. And that's a separate process, but we won't be doing that for the test year.
We actually used that once here.
Yeah.
And it was based on the previous census, and we were trying to get a water grant.
Yes.
And
Were you
we
just
did-
under?
we did it, well, we did it based on, once we did it, there's a matrix, and this was through a state grant. And the state grant took into account the number of water meters. And the number of water meters we had was 2,200. And even their most, I guess, liberal number was three people per water meter.
Okay.
So using that number, we would have a population of 6,000 in Presidio.
Right.
When in fact, our census has us at 35 and some change.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
So the good news is, and again, won't be this test, but this is actually a good conversation to be having now, because I know this sounds really silly, but the 2030, we're actually already starting our operations there. You're gonna start hearing from us in 2027, asking you for address lists. And I know that it's a controversial, but we will go to your utilities and we'll start with the highest elected official and say, hey, who should we be talking to? And we'll ask for like, hey, do you have water meters? Like what types do you have 911? Like what addresses do you have that you're willing to share with us? And what we'll do is ingest those to the best of our ability. And then it's our job to verify that they do or do not exist in the way that we would need them to, right? Because sometimes there are places that have water, but it's not as, most are a dwelling, right? So, but that's our job to check to make sure that's done correctly. Yes?
There's a lot of us here that don't have water.
I know, I stayed in Sterling this weekend, awesome rainwater shower, actually. But we do understand there's some more complication there, like just finding address lists, right? And that's another reason too, we want to make sure that we're hiring people from this area to be enumerating people in this area, because it does not work well. I'll tell you right now, we're hoping to be able to hire within the 4 counties. So there might be some people, coming, if you're in Alpine, you might come to Mark, if you're Mark, you might go to Alpine. Hopefully we're not sending people crazy distances. But our backup plan is that we will bring people in from other test sites if we can't get enough recruiting done here. And I'm talking other test sites, Colorado, which is not what we want to do. That is not going to go well if we have to resource something like that. So I'm begging, if you know anybody who might be interested, please, ask them to apply. Like I said, it's a short-term gig, but it's a high-paying one, and actually, like, I'm not just saying this, like, people enjoy this work, like, we people come back every decennial, and it's an interesting job, you work in the community that you know. There are a couple groups of people that we found that are really great for this kind of work, like, you've got emergency services, people who already know where everything is. Like, when I got a flat tire in the middle of Trillingwood Ranch, the person who came to get me knew exactly where I was, right? So if you know somebody who knows the area and knows the physical layout, that's really great. Anybody, teachers are awesome, because first of all, they're just super personable, they know how to talk to people, they know the community really well, and then also, one of our main operations is food during spring break. So it's great extra money on evenings and weekends, and especially with school being out. So if you guys have, I'm here for questions, that's my quick overview spiel, I'm gonna leave paper here, yes.
Say if there's like, a few people, can we hold a training together on the web? Can we meet up together and do the training?
So one of the things we're actually working with is like, so yes, to answer your question, we're gonna figure out how exactly the best way to do that is. So
Okay,
I'm the head of outreach, so I'm public facing for recruiting and partnerships and letting you guys know what's happening, because you'll see me again when I'm like, hey, this is coming and it's real, because nobody's gonna believe it's real, right, for 26. But we're also, the head of operations for this is Denise, she's an incredible person, she's been here for 20-something years as well. And she's gonna be heading up that operation, and what we're gonna do is when we hire people, we're gonna figure out what's the best way to do that for them. Because we wanna meet you guys where you are. We're also working with local, people, like, so if there's a library that would let us borrow their computers during certain times, we're working on that too, that's something that we're starting right now. There's also another thing we're doing called, mobile questionnaire assistance centers, where we'll have like, hey, if you didn't get a questionnaire in the mail and you don't want us coming to your house, because not everybody's getting one, the federal government shows up on their front porch. You can come to this site and we'll help you fill out your census and make sure that you're off that list, so you can go forward with that. Yeah, we're gonna be as flexible with training as we can, and that's just the kind of feedback, if you tell us, then we'll do our very best to accommodate that. Yeah.
We do have a local workforce office here,
Yes,
and I'm gonna take your information to them
I
to
appreciate
make
that.
sure they have it.
I just got contact with them
Yeah.
yesterday, actually.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
they have a computer lab, and our school also has a computer lab for adult learning.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And usually the school works in lockstep if we have something like this that happens. So
That'd be
they're
awesome.
another good resource. Yeah.
And even during outreach, like I have a 9-year-old, and if he's got something he's excited about, he will make sure that I understand it, whether I want to or not. So another outreach avenue we do, not necessarily during the test, but 2030 is working with schools to be like, hey, this is real, because it's just another place that people turn for information, right? Like, okay, is this safe? Is this real? Is this good for my community? Because schools, roads, hospitals, everything comes back to the federal budget. It's like $1 trillion a year. It comes back for those community resources. So we want to make sure we're doing it to the best of our ability. Like I said, we're trying to do it in the hardest places we know of, and this is one of the 6. So.
Well, and just some factoids.
Yes.
The city of Alpine
Mhm.
was established and incorporated as a city in 1885.
I saw the sign.
We were incorporated in 1980.
Okay.
After 1980, what was it, 82, 83, something like that. So we haven't been an incorporated city for very long.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, one of the things we got wrong was the 911. So we're just now getting into compliance. So there's a lot of work that's been done.
It's a hard place to do it.
It is a very difficult place to do it. So, and they're working through those. But hopefully, we'll get some good numbers out of this.
It's interesting the timing of your incorporation, because as silly as it sounds, we didn't have like good computers until the 90s. Like, we were literally doing everything on paper. And so we didn't start keeping the same records between decennials until 1990. So your timing on that was like well played. And then, we'll take whatever you got, maybe in 2030. So as much as you have, we'll take it. And then the good news about this area too, there are some real advantages, which I never necessarily would have thought about if I hadn't been doing this for a very long time. But we can use satellite imagery now that we get from other branches of the government. And it's really easy to find physical locations, with satellite imagery, so that saves us a lot of just the physical walking and driving time. Or if you go somewhere that's heavily wooded or a lot of other things, it's hard to tell. And then here also, because there's a lot of embedded housing, you don't want to be walking on somebody's ranch and be like, where else back here are people? So we've got some advantages there, but yeah, E911 here, I mean, honestly, we're doing a lot of the same things and I know it's a challenge, so.
So it is true, Big Brother is watching.
Yes, yeah, it's absolutely true. So we actually ingest like the satellite, and the Census Bureau doesn't do any of the kind of stuff like that. Like, I think the satellite imagery stuff's really cool, and the mapping that we do, we actually ingest that from other areas. Because even like the National Park Service, they have great imagery for their own areas. So, but yeah, we're using that as a cost cutting, but also as we're always trying to burden the respondent as little as we can. And instead of going like, hey, what's back there, if we have imagery, then we don't have to ask. All right, questions?
No, I just want to say, all border communities is much local help, obviously you understand that local help. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't want to talk to somebody from Amarillo or Fort Worth that they'll talk to that's from even more for Alpine, but particularly their hometown.
No, absolutely, and that's why, like, specifically, especially like for the city, like, we want people to, we really do. And I sure don't want to be bringing people in Colorado, that will be just a thing, so.
These are special little communities.
Yes.
They're pretty tight knit. So.
And very unique,
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
they're each very unique.
I think we have probably about 200 farm workers that travel back and forth to Marfa and Fort Davis every day. They
Yeah.
leave at 6 o'clock in the morning in vans.
Yeah.
And they go pick hydroponic tomatoes.
Yeah,
That's one example. A lot of our, of working age young men
yeah,
that are married, have their families live here, their wives live here, but they work in Midland, Odessa.
right,
Because that's where the jobs are. That's
Yeah.
where the oil industry and the gas industry is. So, but they're gone for 2 weeks.
right. And that's where it kind of gets hard, like, where do you define where you live? That's another thing where it's having those conversations, yeah.
They're living in man camps in Midland, Odessa.
Yes,
If you drove around through Presidio today, the school is off all week for Thanksgiving.
right,
So we have about 1,200 kids in school, and this week, a lot of them will go visit family in Chihuahua.
Sure.
Alma,
Yeah.
and other places beyond in Mexico.
yeah.
So we almost become a ghost town during this.
It's been interesting.
So you'll see a lot of these little quirks that you're talking about. That, a lot of our working population that has a job, they'll drive to Alpine, they'll drive to Marfa, they'll drive to Fort Davis, they'll drive to Midland, Odessa.
Yeah,
So-
it's been interesting. So I was here in 2010, so for 2020, I had a 1-year-old, so I sat that one out, but, so I just have my normal day job at the census, but 2010 was really interesting because we're already having a lot of that mobile population, but it is much more mobile now. And it's, like I said, there's just it's one thing, we're used to the humans moving, right? The humans move, but the housing picking up and moving in mass is something that's harder for us too, because, okay, where were you living and sleeping on April 1st? And that's hard, and especially if you say you've got somebody who's working full-time somewhere else. We'll walk through those procedures, it just takes having more people available to have this conversation.
Lacey, did I hear you correct? It's gonna start actually in December and it will run till June?
So yes, we're actually hoping to start placement, so we're a little behind because October 1st was when we started, and so that was just a little bit of a mess. But we were actually hoping to start offering jobs last week.
Right.
It's gonna be next week, but now we're hoping to actually start making it. And those are for supervisory positions, those are for people that would be enumerating group quarters, start establishing those connections, those contacts with, or whatever the detention center is, or a nursing home, because it takes time to build those relationships, and then also find out what is the best way to enumerate the specific. But yeah, we're hoping to start offering next week.
I'm just real excited that this is an opportunity for our community
excited
to
too.
make some money.
Yeah,
But also, we all know how important the data off the census is.
right.
And because we depend upon that so much, so maybe we'll get it right.
And it's setting up in a really good place to do it for 2030. And when I found out this was one of the test sites, I was really excited, because I think, first of all, people don't understand the area as well. And I think that the more that we learn as a bureau, the better off we'll be in a lot of places. But I thought it was really, it's really exciting. And I understand too, there are a lot of people that are living here that are residents and not necessarily citizens, and there's a fear of government in general, certainly the US federal government, but we count all residents. So, and that's another thing too, so we can actually
You do have an online. Peggy, did you have something to ask?
Hi, thanks, Karina. Thanks, everyone. Hi. This is really interesting, Lacey. Is there a written like job description proposal for this? I'm with the Rio Grande Council of Governments, and I'd love to spread this word and hopefully help this along.
So we have a website, they're vague, they're very vague, but I can give you more specific detailed information about exactly what everything is. But I'll give you a
Okay,
quick overview of the full.
I'm sorry.
As I say, Peggy, if you can email me your contact info.
I can email you.
Oh, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, what's-
that'd be great.
Do you have Lacey? I can get your email and then I'll email you. That'd be great.
Yeah, I can send it to you right now, Peggy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scotty. Okay, I gotta run for another meeting, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy. So
Okay.
really quickly, the vast majority of the jobs are in rigor, so that's going out to knock on household doors. A level above that is the supervisors. Those are the people that are supervising the work and delegating it out. We have outreach assistants who will be working at those mobile questionnaire assistance centers to actually help people fill out the census. And we will have a couple of trainers, which will be maybe training in person if we've got a cluster of people, but we're not gonna do the mass come up to somewhere far away. So we have local trainers, do some of those more pod training, things with people that are local, if they're not, if they don't want to apply it. Thank you. All right, I'm zipping it. Any questions?
You have an extra flyer of mine?
Yes. Which one? I have so many.
I was supposed to go to the job.
John's got it, okay.
Yeah, I know some people that are looking for.
I'm glad.
David, I think I emailed all this to Martha. Maybe you got it in one of your emails I have. Because I sent it out to a few groups early to make sure that they could start searching.
I could tell when you did because we started seeing applications,
Right.
which was a very exciting day. Yeah. But yeah, we're seeing these trickle in, and I think what's hard for people is we're hiring in January, so like, why now? But what I'm just saying is you'll be at the top of the list again, so. All right, I'm laying these out, and then I'm being quiet.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
guys.
for traveling.
All the time.
No worries. You got to see Presidio, didn't you?
Well, I was actually here last week,
Yeah.
just. Like, they're all together. All right, continue on. I'm just gonna lay these here and leave them.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll remind everybody, it was just a discussion and a presentation on. So we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Discussion with action on the authorization to issue requests for proposals for application submission and administrative services and requests for qualifications for engineering services related to the FY 2026 Colonia Fund. And again, this is just getting ahead of the curve. I think in talking, I was talking with, and I'm gonna let Ms. Carrasco speak here shortly. I'm gonna let Ramon speak. I'm gonna have them speak out. I know we have some people from Shafter here. So again, what the Colonia grants, what's the definition? How do we apply? And we have several colonias in Presidio. Can they be shared? Can we do a small project in Redford? Can we do a project in Ruidosa? Can we do a project in Shafter? Should we focus on one big project? This basically is just a post on the newspaper, and wherever anywhere else it needs to be placed to seek somebody to apply for those grants. So.
Joe, I would like to speak to this too. I want to remind everyone that we do have a project manager for EDAP in Trey Griffers. We currently have EDAP funds in place, and I would really appreciate it. Trey is going to be on the agenda for December 10th, and he is our expert that has been working with 4 to 5 years in Shafter. We're so close to getting a public water system there. So I don't know that it's really, I don't know what the process is if we have EDAP funds that are already working in the Colonia, can we go out on top of that? And I would hope that we could possibly, I notice you have action on it. I'd like to delay the action till December 10th when Trey Griffers is here and can speak to where we are on a current project.
And again, I don't want to focus too much on just water. There's a lot of, grants available
Right.
for water. And I surely don't want to interrupt anything that EDAP is doing. And, I'm hoping and praying that you guys get a water system in Chapter soon. But I'll give you some examples of what this has been used for in the past. I think in Redford, they did what? I don't know how many was it, Ms. Carrasco? How many septic systems
In Redford,
in Redford?
I'm not sure, but.
We
they
even
work
had,
on the-
we even had some done on the outskirts of Presidio. So it just doesn't have to be a water project. And again, this would be something where an engineer could come in and give us firm numbers that can look at the overall scope of this is where you can spend the monies. And then say, these are your needs. Like I was talking earlier with Vicky about the arsenic at the water system in Ruidoso. Again, I don't want to interrupt anything that's,
Right.
I know you guys have been meeting. I know you guys have a plan in place. I don't want to interrupt it. But again, this is a place where you can just apply. Let's see what meat is on the bones. I even heard that there was now a little place where you can buy materials for paving. Is that true? I don't know if that's true or not. But until we get in there and we hire somebody that knows what they're looking at and can give us some firm numbers. If you wanted to do septic replacements or put septic in colonias, this is what each house would probably cost you, 3,000 to 5,000. You can do 20 houses. You can do this. You can do that. So again, it's just another grant opportunity that I wouldn't want to pass up. Mrs. West, do you have a question?
I do, Judge, I'm confused. If you could, explain, I'm confused as to authorization to issue requests for proposals for application submission and administrative services and request for, this all is too complicated for me to understand. What is this asking for, Judge, in simple terms? What is it that item 6 is saying?
I'll let Ramon clarify, but basically it's the mechanism that TDA and CDBG, Community Development Block Grants, they have a mechanism in place where you have to first go out and seek somebody that's authorized to apply for these grants and hire them to tell you this is what you can spend your monies on. So do either one of you want to clarify that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead, you first, and then I have.
So basically, that's part of that procurement process, it's part of the 2022 Colonial Fund expansion. It's basically just professionals that go out there and assess as needed for whatever the grant is being asked for. And the grant, I'll just kind of put the information out there. So the grant is for $1 million. There is no match, and once awarded, or however the decision is taken, it'll be for a community or colonia that is within the 150-mile radius of the border. And basically, the 51% of those funds has to be allocated by force to a water project, to sewer improvements, or housing rehabilitation. Just so y'all know about that.
So those are three dedicated.
At least 51% of the 1 million has to be allocated to one of those three projects.
And the other 49%.
So the other 49% is kind of like the leeway for it, and they haven't really fleshed it out exactly to what. That would kind of be for those procurement processes or other expenses.
So what
Ramon,
we
who's
thinking
they?
of, who's they haven't seen
TDA.
yet?
Texas Department of Agriculture.
Okay,
And that's what I wanted to, good morning, Commissioners, I'm Vicky,
Good morning.
finance consultant saying, there's a difference between different funding sources, right? So, the county currently has funding that's specific for water treatment, and that's through the Texas Water Development Board.
right.
And that is a specific funding for making sure that there's, safe water for these small communities. And colonias are usually the ones that are able to apply for that funding, or through the county. This funding specifically through TDA, and that's the Texas Department of Agriculture. And they have a CDBG program, and under that program, they have this specific funding, which is, what's interesting about this funding is that when we did, let's say, for example, the comprehensive plan for the city of Presidio,
Right.
that was a TDA grant, that was a CDBG grant. which was a specific planning grant.
Right.
Nothing for construction. This grant specifically is for construction and for colonias. And it's for any sort of water infrastructure and improvement. What's a little bit unique this time, and usually you don't see this, is that there might be the possibility of it also helping with roadways and housing. Like, that's a unique thing. I haven't been very familiar with that in the past. But regardless, the key thing with this funding cycle is that the county has to have a resolution, I think by January 8th, that at that resolution, you have to have a series of, we're gonna apply for funding for these 3 different projects. So between now and January 8th, you have the ability of incorporating, the needs, working with an engineer, looking at things for the community. You do have to have a public hearing
Right.
before this as well. So there's certain, a lot of requirements from TDA just to get to the point of that initial application at January 8th. And then, even then, the actual application for the full funding, I think it's sometime in February. But, you really just want to start early on to be able to even qualify and for them to consider the county and the projects that you're suggesting for that final.
Vicki, what are the 3 projects you guys are suggesting?
What are we?
No,
Yeah,
no,
it seems like there's a lot of side conversations that have gone on, and this is the first that I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, no.
There's nothing firm. If we went to Ruidosa, Candelaria, Redford, Shafter, every one of you would have something you would say. Like me, I'm even thinking a road project, a bridge over Cibolo Creek. Would that help? Could you get that done? We don't know yet. What would it cost? Well, you see where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to be a little creative. The arsenic in Candelaria.
Candelaria, Ruidosa, Redford.
Yeah,
There's
but
arsenic
again,
in all 3
could you have multiple projects? Could you break the $1 million up into 4 little groups? Could you? I don't know, and we don't. There's nothing firm. This is just to apply, and then this is just to go and look. And like I said, we'll have a window, not a very big window, but we'll have a window to go and see.
RFQ and stuff.
There's verbiage that is pretty standard that they require in the newspaper, and I understand Mr. Sanchez and would be the ones that would have that in the paper.
Right.
And then you would have people competing for it, and then the commissioner's court would select.
And TDA, like when you look at the guidance for this specific funding source, they have a lot of examples. So even the resolution, it shows you the resolution that we're applying for this amount of money. These are the 3 projects that we're applying for. I do want to reference one question that you had earlier about when you have the EDAP or previous funding.
Right.
So the way that TDA, I think the way that they're allotting how they're scoring applications, it's very specific. Like, it's like, if you've done this, you're gonna get these many points. If you've done this, you're gonna get these many points. And one of the high point qualifications, I think, don't quote me, but that's based on what I read, is that you get many points if you have had previous CDBG funding. Again, that's different than Texas Water Development Board funding.
Right.
But that is something that if you don't have previous funding, then it doesn't really help you. So they're really looking at communities that have already been looking at different efforts in the colonias or the communities.
Right.
But again, I'm not very familiar. You're probably more familiar with the requirements for this specific funding because it is very unique and a little bit different than other years.
Yeah. One of the things that helped us, one of the things that helped us. Vicki referenced the master plan for the city. And in it was a master plan. And recently the city council of Presidio, they were just awarded $1 million for a downtown renovation grant. So again, this is just one small step, and this is just to put it in the paper. That's it. We would have to still come back again at our next meeting, depending on who throws their name in the hat for these services, and then make a selection.
And it could be, let's say, 10 different ideas, 20 different ideas.
Right.
And you as the commissioners in coordination with the community and whoever is involved, they can decide, because I think it also funds planning, like just an evaluation of what's happening in that colonia, an assessment of housing. It could be, so it's a little bit broader than just water and sewer.
But Vicki, you are aware that we have been working 4 to 5 years after, and we're to the point where if we were gonna go after EDAP money, why wouldn't we go after it to the construction phase of that public water system? Because what I see is, yeah, it's another grant opportunity, but who's gonna manage that grant? We're already spread very thin on the EDAP that we're currently managing. So to throw that on top of it, it makes no sense why we wouldn't stay focused on what we're currently working on and completing that task.
Yeah.
And construction is a big part of it. And so I don't think that was ever a part of the.
And again, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I do have some experience with CDBGs. But most of the work is done by the company you hire, the engineers. They're the ones that go and find, again, if we decide it's rehabilitation of a home or if it's a septic tank, they actually go and knock on doors and find the people that are qualified, and they come back to you with, we can get this done with this block of money.
But Joe, we're still struggling because it does fall on the auditor's office. And I think that's why the auditor was very opposed to this happening right now, because we're adding another layer and we haven't completed the current thing we're working on. So while I appreciate that, and I know Joe's gonna say to me, well, we should be swinging for the fence. We need to complete what we're working on. We really do,
And just to clarify that, this is for colonias, right?
Yeah.
And there's certain, parameters that you have to prove. So
Right.
even in the city of Presidio, there's a part of Presidio that's in the ETJ
Right.
that is considered a colonia, right?
Right.
So you do an assessment or a survey, you need to understand how many, residents are in
Right.
colonia to
Right.
qualify. So I guess in response to you, I'm not very familiar with the EDAP and what's happening in Shafter or that funding.
Right.
But all I'm saying is that for this specific funding, it's for any colonia, and it doesn't have to be specific to water. It's up to the community to decide, or to the citizens.
I wouldn't be opposed.
I've been trying to.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed to say, this is $1 million opportunity. I wouldn't be opposed that, let's say we apply for it, we do get it. I wouldn't be opposed, let's find a project manager to alleviate the pressure that's being put on the treasurer's office and the auditor if they're struggling. To dot the i's and cross the t's. Even if we had to pay somebody for a year and there's a contracting for it, to manage it all and to make sure they did the vast majority of the work and have it the auditor and the treasurer to just stamp on it and get it through. I don't think you can turn down $1 million worth of projects that are out there. So
I do think that this is very important, because we have in a lot of our areas in the county a lot of water issues, right? So this is definitely not something that we can really pass up. I think it's very important for us to go for this. The only legal hitch that I have to put in it right now, and I'm again sorry to be the lawyer with the wet blanket, is our RFP procedures have to go through the auditor's office. And I just texted Alicia. I know she's not there right now. She's out of the office. And I asked her if the process had been approved and started through her office. And she said she hadn't seen anything about it. So is this something that can wait for the next meeting? Because our current procedures through Texas law and through our county policies is that the RFP procedures have to be started in the auditor's office in a very specific manner. And she said it's a whole process. And right now it can't be farmed out to like Lone Star, to another company. It has to be done through the auditor's office. So I 100% think we need to do this. If it's $1 million that we can use towards our colonials and water infrastructure, because that's a huge deal. But for our legal procedures, is this something that can wait until December? That way it's done correctly through our legal processes.
Blair, that's the exact motion I wanted to make, is if we could table this until December 10th. Because we do have someone that has experience with EDAP. And he will be here, as well as Alicia will be back. So all I'm asking, I love the discussion to learn more about what y'all are talking about. But I would really, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the December 10th. Yeah, go
Some
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
simple questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so you just apply for $1 million and they give it to you
It's up
and
to,
you
up to,
decide, I
up
mean,
to $1 million.
I've never heard of a grant that you don't have specific projects already in mind when you apply for the grant.
It's not, it's to apply on. And actually, it's not even to apply. This is not even to apply. This is just to post in the newspaper services for an engineer that's qualified to look at it, come back to us next go round. All they're gonna do is come back to us and say, this is what the monies are for. All these things that we're surmising, rehabilitation, roadway, sewer, water, the engineer will come back to us and say, and I believe in that grant, the engineering services that you hire is paid for out of the grant. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So again, we're not without anything. They would come back to us and they would say, I've evaluated your colonias. This is all the colonias that are available, that are allowable. And these are some of the projects that they have. So these are some of the needs that they have, and then what say you, and then we go from there. That's all it is.
Okay, my next question
go ahead.
is the rural utility board gonna be involved in any of this? I mean, we're the ones who've been tasked with
Right.
water in all the colonias,
Yeah.
and we haven't heard a thing about this at all.
Yeah.
None of us.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because,
So it's not, again, it's not laser focused on water. It's not laser focused. Now I do know the 89th legislature, they put a lot of money in Texas, in the Texas budget for water this go around. So I know there's a lot of opportunities, but again, this one is very unique to other opportunities. It could build somebody that has a dilapidated house. And this happened back, it's probably been a couple of decades, but they actually applied for a grant in Presidio that rehabilitated a lot of dilapidated houses. And it just brought them back up to code. It put, just stuff, water heaters that were outside, it moved them inside. It put them, it fixed their electrical problems. It gave them an air conditioning system. It just did things like that. So again, this is not something competitive against the water and the water projects and everything going on. This is just.
No, I'm not
yeah.
saying that, but it was really unclear when you're saying, oh, it's $1 million that's available, and we have no idea what it's gonna be for.
No, yeah, and at this point, the county hasn't made a decision at all. I mean, I think that's why by January the 6th, I believe, the 8th, that's when the county has to make a decision.
Correct.
These are the 3 or 4 projects.
Projects that we would sponsor.
Projects. And at that point, then TDA evaluates that, and that's where you get ranked and
Correct.
even invited to fully participate
Yeah.
for the funding.
Right.
So
this is not a yes. This is exactly, we
Yes.
still got 3 or 4 steps before TDA could come back and say no to all of our
But
projects.
the county will have no financial obligation to pay
Correct.
this engineer.
Correct.
Right. So I think I can add to that. I think this is, in order to pinpoint the projects that we would like to use money for, we have to have an engineering service identify what those projects are. So this really is step kind of 0, if you think about it, is getting these engineers to identify potential projects, potential costs of those projects in the area before you can even apply for what projects are there. So this is an important first step to potentially getting there. I don't believe, and Ramon, you might be able to tell me more, because I don't really know anything about this. I don't believe that we have to pay for the evaluation in the first place. So we get these evaluations, these proposals from these engineer companies that say, here are the projects that we have looked at. Here's what we think the potential costs would be. We don't have to pay them for those proposals and for those evaluations. So we, as a county, we won't be out just for requesting the proposals. It's just a way for us to gather information, and information is huge, right? We want more information. We need more information before we can move forward. So this is, like I said, really step zero before we can even consider the application process to know what to apply for. And then from there, once we have those proposals, we can take a look at, oh, here are the projects that are on the board. You know, maybe there's $3 million worth of projects and prioritize them, which, you know, if there's only a potential upwards of 1 million, we have to prioritize which ones are more important, which ones we want to go for and ask for. So I think this is really important for us to do, even if we don't get the grant or we don't end up applying, you know, getting invited to apply for the grant. At least it gives us a view of where our county stands at and our Colonia stands at with water to move forward, because information is money, right? But my only, again, I'm going to throw the only legal stitch in there. Whenever we do RFPs, the verbiage that's going into the paper has to be approved through the Commissioner's Court. I'm not on Google Drive right now, so I have no idea if our Google Drive has the verbiage, but that verbiage is usually fleshed out by the auditor's office, because the verbiage has legal requirements by the state and by county law on all the work, like the verbiage and the information that is put into the newspaper standings. And then the auditor's office also has to pinpoint what the cost of putting it in the paper, how long to put it in the paper, submits it to the paper, and then what budget it comes out of. So I don't know if any of those things have been done. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not on the Google Drive at the moment to take a look, but those are just those kind of quick initial things that the auditor's office does in order to issue the RFP in the first place.
Well, one of the things I want to point out, because Martha just made a very valid point. We have the Presidio County Utilities Services Board. And it seems to me that y'all are kind of meeting and talking about potential projects, and not everyone's including. This is no different than the ambulance task force committee, and we want to open that up to all. So how does the people of Shafter who have come to this meeting specifically because they still need more money for construction for a water system, how do they get to be a part of that conversation when we're deciding what projects go forward? And I get these are not just specific water, but it could be a water project. Go ahead, Julie.
Let me go back to, hold on, Julie. Let me go back to Mr. B, because he had his hand up. And
I know, I think the county attorney answered my questions.
okay. So go ahead, Ms. Wood.
Yes, I was, to respond to Ms. Heisler too, and what she said. I'm wondering why we haven't included, and I'm repeating, Traeger first in on this first, because he has so much knowledge about EDAP grants. He is the one for the past 4 or 5 years who's been working to get these grants through EDAP for the Colonia, specific, not just for Shafter, but the $12 million that was targeted was for 4 projects, several in 2, I think in Marfa, 1 in Shafter, and 1 in Las Pampas area.
Yeah.
And so we're still, he's the one that understands that, he's the one that knows about that, he's the one with the experience. I feel like we should be talking to him. Another thing is, you know, I'm going back to my notes 2 years ago about to this date. I remember sitting with Mr. Beebe and several commissioners. We formed a WCID, the Water Control and Improvement District, a local grassroots group. And I have the notes here that what do we do? What is our function? With this board, it makes us eligible for funding from EDAP, USDA, for drinking water purposes, but it can also be used for sewer and wastewater, bringing services to unincorporated areas, wider legal extent than our local water supply corporation, 100% local control. Where is our board? Why haven't we met and known about this? I think we should talk this over and understand what's going on.
Yeah, again, I think this is not trying to compete with EDAP or water grants or your water project or any other project that you guys have. It's just another opportunity for us to explore and look at. So, let me go ahead and go back. I think you had a motion.
I do.
You made a motion.
I'd like to move that the table taking action on the authorization until our next meeting on December 10th,
So
when we will have our auditor and our EDIAP project manager in the room.
Okay, I have a motion.
Before, I got a couple of questions. Does this affect, and I'm not familiar with EDAP, does it affect the money that we have now in any way?
We don't know. We don't know. That's how we want.
Well, my question is, how can you ask for a proposal? All you're doing is asking to look at the menu. And I'm with Blair. I think this needs to be done. I want to make sure we do it legally.
Okay.
And you say we need to go through the auditor's office, Blair?
Yes, there are right now are all RFPs or RFQs have to be promulgated through the auditor's office. That office is the one who runs RFP and RFQ procedures, with a very small exception for county property, which I can handle myself. But we're not dealing with that, so that ignore that part.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, quite frankly, I would vote yes today if you hadn't told me that. I think this is important. I don't see how it will affect anything else. All we're doing, basically, what my old uncle used to say, it don't cost nothing to look at the menu.
Yep, exactly.
So I have a motion
I'll second it.
and I have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Thank you.
I think this is a really important discussion. I'm glad we're having it now, and then I'm excited to get Trey in on it. Like Trey, everyone knows Trey is the water czar in the county. He knows everything. So I think having him on it will also help, because the EDAP funds that we got were cut severely this past year. We thought we were going to get a lot more money. And so Trey might be like, this could be huge for the current EDAP projects that were underfunded and cut. So this is a really awesome conversation that we're having. I'm excited to see how it moves forward.
So we
Thanks,
get,
Blair.
all right, so we get to agenda item number 7, administrative updates and announcements from the county judge and from the commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Hernandez. No. Commissioner Hisler.
Heisler. Joe, why is that so hard? Why
You can't even get by loan right.
Huh? I get
I
that.
know how many times they.
Legacy over here.
Yeah.
I've been called Portillo.
Oh, it's not fulfilling?
No,
Yeah.
you gotta roll here. No offense.
Right.
I'm just giving you.
I know you are. I know you are.
No, I don't have anything.
Commissioner Knight.
I talked to the people from the head of the CBI, this is our engineering group for the elevator. They're working on a variance. My only concern, I also talked to TK Elevator, and they are charging us storage on the materials at this time.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that we have to pay that or should, but that's what I was told.
Okay.
I don't know where the variance is. I will be back. It's not always easy to talk to these people. I'm not a good emailer. I'm learning to be better, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's where we are right now.
Buddy,
Look forward to it.
if you'll remind me on that, I'll have to check their contract to see that storage services was even in the contract. Because if not, then I'll fight them on it.
I will certainly do that. I need to see you anyway sometime before long.
All right.
Ms. Zubi,
Just RCI came in last week
how'd
and,
that go?
well, it went well. There's gonna be a lot of changes in the system. They'll be here in about 6-7 weeks to train me on the asset inventory system.
Okay.
But it really well.
Good. Good.
I do want to give kudos to Bianca. Ruben was out this week and her and Felipe did an amazing, I can't praise her enough, an amazing job with having, even though those big machines are at different locations,
they had great lists, and I mean, the Shannon, the lady from RCI would ask for something and they just were on top of it, so I just want to thank her and Betty for all the great work they did.
Thanks, Bianca.
Yeah. Ms. Catania? No? I went through the changing of the guard, so the fourth ID is out and Fort Bliss is in, the 137th Armored Division. I went to their change of command ceremony. Wish them the best of luck. We've had a lot of instability in Mexico. I think we've had probably, what, 5 or 6 shootings just from the last week.
Here?
So, yeah, here in Orindaga. Yeah, as a matter of fact, they had one downtown, right at the big grocery store. I understand a woman was shot yesterday. Yeah, so there's just a lot of instability right now with everything going on between the drug cartels. So we'll pray that that gets settled and gets back to normal, whatever normal is. I had a meeting with healthcare with Hamilton Health Box yesterday. I'm gonna be going to Houston next week to discuss a project. There's a lot of money that was made available for rural healthcare. And if you haven't had a chance to visit the new clinic in Marfa or Presidio, they're walk-in clinics. They're actually very different from the preventative clinic that we have. So you can actually, you don't need an appointment, you can just walk in if you're sick. So, and we're hoping that it continues to expand. The hospital district agreed to put a full clinic in Presidio and to fund that build out. But there's going to be a significant amount of money for rural hospital on the federal level. And they're going to throw their name in the hat, and they have a very big idea of how they can help all of our communities. And when I say all of our communities, this would extend from Carroll County to Brewster County to Presidio County to Culberson and Reeves County. So we're going to go meet with them and see if we can't give them some data and wish them luck that maybe they can. And we, you know, again, this is just very initial discussions, but one of their visions is we're seeing a lot of problems with EMS. EMS is becoming a much more expensive endeavor for every city. It's probably to the tune of $1 million for the budget of Marfa and the budget of Presidio. And can there be a hybrid where it's housed within this rural clinics and they're doing multi-functions or emergency service districts? Or again, this is very initial stages, but it's something that we should at least be looking at, especially if it's a cost savings for our cities. So I don't have anything else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you for attending. All in favor?
Aye.
11:33 a.m.
Buddy, I'm gonna go.